Welcome to Lecture 14, Women and Stroke, which is about sleep, this lecture 14. Should I start off with the usual nag about weight and obesity and intermittent fasting, intermittent movement? No, you've probably had enough. And anyway, you might just skip forward and miss everything. Or just give up completely and write me a nasty review. So no, I'm not going to mention most of the lifestyle factors. But obviously, this lecture is entitled Sleep, so of course I will be talking about sleep. Habitual sleep patterns are important neurobehavioral determinants of risk for ischemic stroke in postmenopausal women. The underlying neurobiology and mechanistic mediators for the putative adverse effect of long sleep, 9 hours a night, needs further elucidation. Yan Leng from the University of Cambridge says it's apparent, both from our own participants and the wealth of international data, that there's a link between sleeping longer than average and a greater risk of stroke. What is far less clear, however, is the direction of this link. Whether longer sleep is a symptom, an early marker, or a cause of cardiovascular problems. Therefore, it is worth noting that excessive sleep as an early sign of increased stroke risk, particularly among older people. This study suggests that those who reported persistently long sleep or substantially increased sleep had a much higher stroke risk. This again points to the importance of detecting prolonged sleep among the aging population. While there are no other studies with which to directly compare our findings, stability of sleep as a trait is important, and future studies are needed to explore this matter. The underlying mechanisms are not fully understood. Sleep deprivation has been linked to disrupted metabolism and increased cortisol secretion, sympathetic nervous activity, and low-grade inflammation, which might lead to elevated blood pressure, interrupted blood flow, and increased stroke risk. The present prospective study and the updated meta-analysis, however, have both suggested a stronger association for long sleep duration, independent of conventional CVD risk factors. So longer sleep, stroke risk. So time you spend asleep, as well as the quality of sleep, are stroke risk factors. Let's have another study. The average age of the participants at the start of the study was 62 and ranged from 42 to 81 years. Most of them slept between 6 and 8 hours per day, 69%, with 10% sleeping for more than 8 hours. In total, 346 people had a stroke during the 9.5-year follow-up period. After adjusting for all the confounding factors listed above, sleep of more than 8 hours increased the risk of stroke by 46%. I'm not talking about time in bed. Sleep of more than 8 hours increased the risk of stroke by 46%. Increased the risk of stroke in women by 80%. was not associated with strokes in men. There was no statistically significant association between sleep of less than 6 hours and stroke. This cohort study found that overall people who sleep for more than 8 hours have a 46% increased risk of stroke. When analysed separately, there was no statistically significant association for men, but a much higher risk for women of 80%. Remember, this course is about women and stroke. That's why I'm emphasizing there's a greater risk for women, according to the studies. Insomnia is the best known sleep problem. People with insomnia have trouble falling asleep or staying asleep, but a different kind of disturbed sleep, that's sleep apnea, has an even more profound effect on the heart. During sleep apnea, the back of the throat relaxes, cutting off oxygen. Sleep apnea sufferers actually stop breathing from 15 to more than 100 times an hour. 15 to 100 times an hour. Think about that. Each pause causes oxygen levels to drop, making it hard for the heart to do its job of pumping oxygen-rich blood through the arteries. Having a dog with bloat who kept me awake most of the night. Also, I think I mentioned that staying on Facebook, FB, until bedtime made things far worse for me. On the nights I just read a book and stayed away, my sleep was much better. Obviously, external noises like overhead helicopters doesn't help. So this is someone, problems sleeping. 3 problems, a dog with bloat. Can't do much about, well, you could not have a dog, but it can't do a great deal about that. Helicopters overhead. Well, you could move, but again, short term, can't do much about that. Staying on Facebook made things far worse for me. On the nights I just read a book and stayed away, my sleep was much better. There you go. Turn off the media. Stay off Facebook. Don't get involved in arguments, trolls, personal attacks, getting banned from forums, antagonism, particularly because the time difference, America and Europe, for example. Someone posts at 3 o'clock UK time insulting you or asking you questions or abusing you. You answer 3 o'clock UK time, keeps you awake a bit longer, then reverse it for America. Stay off Facebook in the evening, or maybe altogether. Take a book to bed, read it. Again, look at the quotation. I just read a book and stayed away. My sleep was much better. That's a Holman protocol follower. And as I keep mentioning, there's a whole course on the Holman protocol. And I'm quoting from some of the Holman protocol followers or people who subscribe to it. They subscribe to healthy living, reducing the chances of stroke. Sleep problems affect the heart in several ways. Blood pressure normally drops during a sleep. But in people with sleep disorders, blood pressure typically does not drop and may even rise. Remember that blood pressure is a major cause of strokes. Blood pressure rises during the night, risk of a stroke must increase. After several nights, blood pressure may remain elevated around the clock. Over time, high blood pressure damages the lining of the blood vessels. This creates inflammation and predisposes the arteries to developing atherosclerosis. High blood pressure, disrupted sleep. Inadequate sleep and poor quality sleep also cause levels of the stress hormone cortisol to rise. High cortisol levels and systemic inflammation can trigger or worsen insulin resistance, setting the stage for diabetes as well as for heart disease. Sleeping less than 4 or 5 hours a night for 3 or 4 nights has effects on insulin and cortisol levels. We don't know for how long this must continue before the risk of heart attack or stroke increases a great deal. So, how can we get good sleep? First of all, avoid caffeine, alcohol, nicotine, and other chemicals that interfere with sleep. Because if you drink a lot of coffee, a lot of alcohol, which may knock you out, but it interferes with your sleep, then you're going to get a disrupted sleep pattern. So avoid caffeine, alcohol, nicotine, and other chemicals. Turn your bedroom into a sleep-inducing environment. Establish a soothing pre-sleep routine. Go to sleep when you're truly tired. Don't be a nighttime clock watcher. Staring at a clock in your bedroom, either when you're trying to fall asleep or when you wake in the middle of the night, can actually increase stress, making it harder to fall asleep. Turn your clock's face away from you. And if you wake up in the middle of the night and can't get back to sleep in about 20 minutes, get up and engage in quiet, restful activity. Take a Udemy course. You could try reading or listening to music. There's plenty of Udemy courses dealing with, and free too, dealing with relaxation. Keep the lights dim. Bright light can stimulate your internal clock. When your eyelids are drooping and you're ready to sleep, return to bed. Use light to your advantage. Natural light keeps your internal clock on a healthy sleep-wake cycle. So let in light first thing in the morning and get out of the office for some break during the day. Keep your internal clock set with a consistent sleep schedule. Have a regular sleep schedule to ensure better quality and consistent sleep. If you're going to nap at all, it's going to be part of your day, nap early. For those who find falling asleep or staying asleep through the night problematic, afternoon napping may be the cause. A late day nap will decrease your sleep drive. So if you're going to nap, nap before 5 o'clock, but then maybe you'll be at work. Don't nap while you're driving, obviously. Lighten up on evening meals. If you eat a pizza, for example, 10 o'clock at night, a recipe for insomnia. Finish dinner several hours before bedtime and avoid foods that cause indigestion. If you do get hungry at night, snack on foods, in your experience, that won't disturb your sleep, perhaps dairy, carbohydrates, but better not to eat. Don't want to put on weight, remember. Balance fluid intake. Drink enough fluid at night to stop yourself from waking up thirsty, but not so much that you have to keep getting up to go to the bathroom. Exercise. Should I say that again? Exercise, exercise, exercise will promote restful sleep if it's done several hours before you go to bed. It stimulates the body to secrete the stress hormone cortisol. This activates the alerting mechanism in the brain, which is great unless you're trying to fall asleep. Now, some of these tips would be easier to include in your daily and nightly routine than others, but try and implement as many as possible, more likely to get restful sleep. We want to avoid restless legs syndrome, sleep apnea. We want to avoid high blood pressure. We want to avoid you getting a stroke. Now watch this video.
But what is enough and is more better? Just this year, researchers found what appears to be the magic number of hours to sleep, on average, every night, to minimize risk of cancer, stroke, and heart disease. Sleep fewer hours, and mortality goes up. Sleep any longer, and mortality goes up. To maximize health and longevity, is the optimal sleep duration 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, 9, or 10 hours? And for those of you thinking, what about 12 hours? No. Well, it's not 6, and it's not 10. It's not 8 either. The optimum amount of sleep to get on average every night to live longest is 7 hours of sleep, according to this important new study this year.
I hope you made notes in the video, as always, perhaps in your journal or accompanying book. Your own book. I'm not providing the book, obviously. And let's progress with another quotation from someone who follows the Holman protocol. When I said I got the same results, I was speaking of health benefits. Feeling fit, having a healthy and happy life. If my cholesterol is high and I'm eating healthily, then in that context, what does it really matter? I'm doing everything possible to protect my health and to eat a natural, unprocessed diet. I keep carbs and sugars to an absolute minimum. I don't eat any trans fats. I rarely drink alcohol. I sleep in line with circadian rhythm. I walk for miles. What could I possibly change to make things any better, apart from ditching an obsession with numbers? Feeling fit, healthy, happy life. Doing everything possible. Eating natural, unprocessed diet. Carbs and sugars to a minimum. Rarely drink. Sleep in line with rhythm. Walk, exercise outside. What could I change? That's the attitude to prevent a stroke. Those are lifestyle changes to prevent a stroke. Time for homework. Please watch these 2 videos, both from YouTube. If they add to your knowledge, great. If you knew this already, great. If you take action and helps prevent a stroke in you and or your loved ones, then fantastic. The next lecture is all about diet. Yes, it's going to be eating healthily. That will be lecture 15.